He only came to deliver a laptop, nothing more. Just a quiet black teenager trying to earn extra money for his mother's hospital bills. But within minutes, he was surrounded by laughter, judgment, and the kind of humiliation no one forgets. The CEO didn't see a hardworking kid. He saw a stereotype. What happened next, though? No one in that building could have predicted, because in just 10 minutes, that same boy would turn their arrogance into regret, and their cruelty into the lesson of a lifetime. For Jaylen Reed, life was a constant balancing act between survival and hope. At just 17, he carried more responsibility than most adults. His mother worked as a cleaner at one of the city's largest tech companies, a place filled with glass walls, polished floors, and people who never noticed her. Jaylen noticed, though. Every evening, he'd wait outside the building, helping her carry supplies home, listening to her talk about how proud she was to work there, even if no one ever remembered her name. But Jaylen was different. He wasn't just a kid from the neighborhood. He had a gift, a sharp, intuitive mind for computers. When he wasn't helping his mother, he spent hours repairing old devices from junkyards, learning how technology worked, dreaming of one day designing something that could change lives. So when his mother fell sick and couldn't make it to work, Jaylen offered to drop off a repaired company laptop for her. It was supposed to be quick. Just hand it to the front desk and leave. But when the receptionist waved him upstairs saying, "You can give it directly to the CEO," he froze. Him, in that boardroom full of suits and executives? Still he went. Clutching the laptop, dressed in his cleanest hoodie and worn-out sneakers, Jaylen walked into the company's shining top floor, a place that smelled like power and money. Every eye turned toward him, some curious, some judgmental, none kind. He didn't know it yet, but that single walk through the CEO's door would change everything. The room fell silent the moment Jaylen stepped inside. Dozens of polished shoes, tailored suits, and glowing screens surrounded him, each one a reminder that he didn't belong here. He could feel it in the way their eyes moved from his sneakers to his skin, then to the small, scuffed laptop in his hands. At the head of the table sat Richard Hale, the CEO, a man known for his sharp suits, sharper tongue, and his impatience for anything that didn't make money. When he finally looked up, his lips curled into a smirk. "So the cleaner's boy fixes our tech now?" he said, loud enough for the entire boardroom to hear. A ripple of laughter followed. Someone even clapped as if it were a joke worth celebrating. Jaylen felt the heat rise in his chest, but he stayed quiet. He wasn't here to fight, just to drop off a repaired laptop. Richard motioned for him to place it on the table. "Let's see if your magic hands actually did something useful," he added. The sarcasm stung, but Jaylen did as he was told. He connected the laptop to the large screen on the wall and powered it on. Within seconds, lines of code and diagnostic data began to scroll across the display, stuff even the company's senior engineers hadn't been able to fix for weeks. But before Jaylen could explain, the CEO cut him off. "You probably copied something off the internet," he said flatly. "People like you always look for shortcuts." The laughter grew louder. Jaylen's hands trembled. He thought about his mother, how she'd smiled proudly when he left home that morning. He thought about every late night spent learning, every rejection, every reminder that people like him weren't supposed to belong in places like this. Then, something unexpected happened. One of the senior engineers frowned at the screen. "Wait," he muttered. "That patch, it's working. The memory leak's gone." Others leaned closer. "How did he—" But before anyone could finish, Richard's voice sliced through the air again. "Coincidence," he said, his tone colder now. "We've been troubleshooting that issue for months. No random kid just walks in and fixes it." Jaylen looked up, eyes steady. "It wasn't random," he said softly. "I studied your code." The error was simple, but everyone was looking in the wrong place. For a moment, the room went still. The executives exchanged uneasy glances. But instead of acknowledgement, Richard's face hardened. "You expect me to believe a janitor's son found what my entire team couldn't?" The humiliation in his voice turned into anger. He stood, walked toward Jaylen, and whispered just loud enough for the others to hear, "You're out of your place, boy. Don't ever forget that." Jaylen froze, the weight of every word pressing against him. But then the large screen behind them flashed. A full system reboot. Automatic diagnostics confirming every error had been resolved. Gasps filled the room. The impossible had just happened. Still, Richard refused to look back. "Get him out of here," he ordered. "I don't care how it happened. No one touches that system again." As security approached, Jaylen's stomach twisted. They were really kicking him out for fixing their problem. He turned once more toward the screen, watching the company logo glow brighter than ever. He didn't say a word as he walked out, but deep inside, something had changed. He wasn't just leaving a building. He was walking away from years of silence, judgment, and invisibility. And though he didn't know it yet, those same 10 minutes that humiliated him would soon make the world remember his name. Jaylen barely made it out of the glass building before the weight of it all hit him. The humiliation, the laughter, the words that stung harder than any slap. He had fixed their problem, saved them millions, and still, He was thrown out like he didn't matter. But the universe has a strange way of flipping the script. By the time Jaylen reached the bus stop, his phone buzzed nonstop. A message from a friend at the company. "Oh, your fix. It's everywhere. You did something huge." He looked up at the digital billboard across the street and froze. The tech company's system update had gone public, displaying the developer credit attached to the diagnostic patch. 3 small words glowed under the company logo. Algorithm repair. J. Reed. Crowd outside the building started whispering. Employees gathered by the glass doors, phones out, screens lighting up with news alerts. "Was J. Reed?" asked. "It wasn't that the kid the CEO just kicked out?" 10 minutes the story spread like wildfire. News outlets picked it up. Social media erupted with outrage and praise. Video surfaced. Employees had secretly recorded the CEO's mocking tone, dismissive comments the moment he ordered security to escort Jaylen out. Noon, internet had turned against Richard Hale. Hashtags calling out racism and classism flooded every platform. Investors demanded answers. Company's board called an emergency meeting. Inside that same boardroom where laughter once echoed, silence now ruled. Richard stood frozen as footage of his arrogance played on a giant monitor, his own words exposing him to millions. Outside, Jaylen stood on the sidewalk, watching it all unfold from a cracked phone screen. Wasn't smiling, wasn't gloating, standing quietly, others' voice in his head reminding him, worth isn't decided by their approval. In that moment, first time in his life, Jaylen felt seen. This was only the beginning, because what happened next wouldn't just change one company, spark something far bigger than anyone expected. Later, Jaylen was invited back to the same building, this time as the cleaner's son, but as the young man who had saved a corporation from collapse. The CEO was gone, forced to resign after the recordings went public. Once those polished floors and glass walls didn't feel so distant anymore. They felt smaller, humbled. But Jaylen didn't return for revenge or attention. He came for his mother. You could see the place that once ignored her finally acknowledging her son's brilliance. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. In the middle of it all, Jaylen stayed quiet, his hands folded, eyes calm. He wasn't here to prove them wrong. Here to remind them what they'd failed to see all along. Judged him by his skin, his clothes, his background, or by his mind. It was the real loss. Not for him, but for them. That day, Jaylen's story spread far beyond that company. People shared it, families discussed it, and communities saw in him a reflection of every young person, told they weren't good enough because of where they came from or how they looked. Made his story powerful. Wasn't the humiliation or even the revenge. Truth it revealed. It has no color. That respect shouldn't be earned through pain. Silence in the face of injustice is never neutral. Mission. He went on to build something greater. For himself, but for others like him. Only needed someone to look past the labels. In the end, history wasn't about fixing a system glitch. It was about fixing something much deeper, the way people choose to see each other. The story reached millions. Question lingered in every mind. One boy's courage could expose this much truth. Happen if the rest of us refused to stay silent.